What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make this room that I've made. As per usual, the entire project is available for download for free in the description of the video. So if you want, you could go ahead and download it right now. Yeah, so to do this, we're going to be doing this in Blender. So if you haven't already, you can go to the internet and download Blender for free. This is the software that you can use to add models to your game. All right, so on the right side here, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add a new material so that we don't have to go back and do this later. So you can just call this brick material. It's just in this little circly tab thing on the right, and make sure you have your brick or your square or cube or whatever selected, and then select this little material option. And then you don't have to change this if you don't want to yet, but you just want to assign this first, because if you go to do it after, if you have all the bricks separated, it'll be more difficult to do that. Then we just want to change this into like a brick shape. So press tab to go into edit mode, and we just want to scale it on the Z axis. Press 1 on your keyboard to get a side view. Press G and Z to move it downward. So G is grab, and then Z locks it on the Z axis. And then we want to scale this. So S and then Y to scale it so that it's kind of shaped like a brick. And then once you're happy with the shape that you like, press tab to get out of edit mode. You can press Control 2 on your keyboard to add a subdivision surface modifier. If that doesn't work for you, you could just go over here to the modifier tab, click add modifier, and then just search for subdivision surface, and you can add it like that too. This is the default way this works. We just want to change it from the default to simple so that it just divides the mesh, but it doesn't actually move any of the vertices around. You could add more levels if you want to. This will affect how many little squares are inside of each of your bricks. I'm just going to leave it as the default, but you can do that if you want to. Add another modifier. This is going to be the bevel. So the default of the bevel is a little bit too much. So we just want to change this down to like 0.2. And we can, 0.02, not 0.2. So if you edit the shape or the scale in object mode instead of edit mode, it will affect the transform. So if yours shows big or like extra, like cut off on the edges here, you could press Control A on your keyboard and just press rotation and scale. This will apply the changes that you've made. That's if you did this in object mode instead of edit mode when you were scaling, that will fix that. Then we just want to apply these things on the right here. So the subdivision and the bevel, you can press Control A while your mouse is over top of them. And then if you press tab, you can see that it's divided cube into like squares. And then what we want to do is the thing that makes this look more like a brick is if you go into edit mode with tab, press A on your keyboard, right click and press randomize. And then in the bottom, you can just lower the randomize amount to like 0.2 or 0.3. So this is what makes it actually look kind of like a brick, because you get like these different squares inside of it that just reflect the light. You could also achieve this with a normal map instead of doing it this way, and it would be less expensive with a normal map, but this is just a beginner course, so you're probably not going to do that. So anyway, so that's how you can make one of the bricks. Let's press Control Z. We don't want to randomize it yet. We want to put it into a wall first. So if you click add modifier on the right here, you can type in array. It looks like mine defaulted to X, which is, you can see like the little scale thing here. If yours is going, because depending on how you made the brick, you might have scaled out like this. If yours is going the wrong way, you could just change the factor. So if you change this from 1 on the X to 1 on the Y, it will duplicate it in the direction that you do that in. So we just want to do that, and we're going to change the count to 10 for now. And then we're going to add another array modifier. So you could just add another array modifier. And instead of the X, we just want to do this on the Z. So just change it to 1 as the factor for the Z. And you can make it like 6 or 7. This is going to be the height of the wall, obviously. And then we just want to apply both of these the same way. So if you press Control A on your keyboard while hovering over the arrays, you can apply them, and then you'll have a full object. So once you have it like this, if you go into edit mode with tab, you can press A to select everything, and then P on your keyboard, and you can separate it by loose parts. This will change all of your bricks into separate objects. Then you can press 1 on your keyboard to get this side view. If you highlight all of these rows, you can hold shift while you're clicking and dragging and highlight all these objects. You can press G and X to move these over a little bit. You only want this overhang to be the exact width of this. So like this width needs to match up with this width as best you can. Yeah, so then after you're done that, you can press A to select all of your objects, press tab on your keyboard, press A again to select all the vertices. If you don't see this in vertice mode, you could just click it up here in the top left. And then if you right click, you can hit randomize vertices just like we did before. and you could just change this down to like 0.2 or 0.3. And then if you press tab to go back into object mode, you can see this really looks like a brick wall. Okay, so now that we have our brick wall kind of set up, now we need to do the turning. So if you go back into the game, you can see that I have it set up so that there's like a couple bricks here, and then it turns to make a gap for these little spiky cube things. And then like it does like this. So we're going to set that up as well. So you can just make the room the shape that you want to. So if that's all you came for, then you have the bricks that you need to do that. We're going to delete the majority of the wall because we're going to be copy pasting this. So if you select these bricks to the right of these bricks, you can press RZ90 and you can see that these should clip together perfectly. So if you press 7 on your keyboard to get a top view, you can drag this to here. And if you look at it from a side, you can see that I got the distance for the thing wrong. It's going to look fine still. It doesn't matter. This could actually add to it a little bit, but if you want, you could go back and resize this should be a perfect square. Like the edge should be a perfect square, but I just made them the wrong size. You could even like actually take the size and copy it onto the other one, but we're not going to do that right now. So in order to make this shape, so this could be the corner of our room. We just need to keep adding bricks until we get there. So if we press Shift D on your keyboard, and then right click, 7 to get a top view, and then G and X to lock it on the X axis, you can move it over and that connects perfectly. And then if you press Shift R, sorry, we need to do this all in one motion. Let me show you again. So if you press Shift D here and then X on your keyboard while it's still selected, you can move it over. And then you can press Shift R to repeat this operation. And you can make a wall like that. We just want to go a couple, and then we're going to turn this in to make like the little crevice thing. So we can take this one and then press 7 again, and then Shift D and duplicate it so that it's like this. We want to press RZ180 though, because it needs to be the... Wait, hang on. No, it does need to be the RZ180. It does need to be this way. I thought it was the wrong way. Anyway, so yeah, so get a top view with 7, press G, and just move it into place here. Yeah, and then you can, again, get a top view, press Shift D, and then just lock it on the Y-axis, and then just move it to like this. And then you can get a side view of these bricks, and then 7, Shift D, and just move this over here. And we could do 2 with this. So if we take this again, you can press Shift D, and then X, move it over a little bit. And then we could take these 2 walls here, and this is okay. So this is where we would have to actually rotate it, because you can see like the top part is open, but this is also an open top part. So these are going to align. So if we press Shift D, we can press X to move it over here, RZ 180 to rotate it 180 degrees, and then G and Y, and then just move it into place. So G and X, then again to move it into place. So this is how we get these little crevices. I'm just going to speed lapse the video now. So basically, to make the brick wall, you're just copy pasting the segment of the wall until you've made what you want. All right, so looking at my actual model and what I made right now, it looks like these ones are only 1 in depth, but I did 2 in depth in this model that I've just shown you. So if you want to make it the same as the one from my game, you need to just do 1 in depth. I'm not going to go through and fix that right now. I don't have time. But yeah, so now we need to add the floor. So if you press Shift A, you can add a plane to the game and to the scene, and you can press 7 on your keyboard to get a top view. And we just want to move this. So when you're in the top view, it will only move it on X and Y as long as you stay snapped to the top view. If you move this a different view like this, it can go like up and down like on the Z axis. So just as long as you're in this view, it should only be moving on X and Y. And then you want to press tab to get to edit mode. Just select this bottom right vertice and just select these 2 vertices and just press G and X to move them over. And then you can select these 2 bottom ones and G and Y to move them so they fully envelop the entire area of the room. Okay, so then we want to divide this up so that it can only, like, we don't want these boxes in between the holes in the wall. So if we press Control R on our keyboard, we can make a loop cut. We're just going to do this one at a time. So if you left click, you can then drag this, and you just want to drag it right where you want the mesh to be cut out. And then we're going to do that this way as well, to right about there, halfway through the bricks. And then we just want to do this way again. And we just want these all to align with the walls, right? So Control R is how I'm adding these, and then you left click and you just drag them so that they align with these walls. And yeah, and then we need one for this side as well. And then it looks like I overlapped on the edge here, so we're just going to do this, and then this one doesn't look like I overlapped, so it should be fine. So then we want to go into face select here, and you can just select all of the faces that you don't want anymore. So hold shift and just select them. And it looks like this top line should come down instead. So go back into vertices select this whole top line, press G and Y and just move it down so it's like halfway through the brick. And then do the same for the bottom one. We don't want any overlap where there's like floor hanging out so that you can see it from the other side. So then go into face select again. And this is the same thing actually for this side as well. So go back into this, select this and just press G and X until you can't see it. And then the same with, no, this one's fine. So okay, so then go back to the face select. We just want to remove all these faces that are not required for our floor. And you can press delete on the keyboard, faces, and then you'll have a floor for just this. Now, if you do want, you could do the same array method to make a floor that has tiles. I'm not going to do that right now because I didn't do that in my game, but it would be the same process as the bricks. You just create a square, flatten it, and then you could use that to make a grid, and then you just delete the ones that are not, like the overhanging ones, you would just have to delete them. Okay, so to make a torch for this, let's just go to the side of the wall here, and we can press shift right click to move the 3D cursor so that we're actually making it on the wall here. Press shift A on your keyboard and add a cube to the game. And we just want to press tab on your keyboard so that you're scaling this in edit mode so it doesn't affect the actual scale of it. And just scale it down, S to scale, and then just drag so it's smaller. Press G and X to move it out of the wall a little bit. And then we want to scale this so that on the X-axis so that it's thinner. And then if we just press G and X, we'll push it kind of closer to the wall. And then we can press Control B to bevel it. And this is, if you scroll up on your scroll wheel, you can add more cuts to this. So we're just adding kind of like a rounded thing here to this. And then the torch is just going to be kind of floating in front of this. So in front of this, we can press shift right click to add the 3D cursor right in the middle of it where we want the torch to be. So press shift A, add a cylinder, and then just change the vertices down to like whatever you want. It doesn't need to be a lot because you're not going to be able to see the details of this. So I'm going to use 12 so that it's kind of like a rounded number. And then we just want to go into edit mode and with tab and then scale this down so it's pretty small. And press G and X so that you can move it away from the wall. It's just going to kind of be floating because you can't really see it anyway. It doesn't need to have like a little connector thing. We're playing a top-down game, so like the details are not visible at all. But if you're not doing this in a top-down game, you could add a connector or something like that, but we're just not going to do that right now. So at the very bottom, we just want to grab this. So click the bottom face, make sure you're in face mode with it, which is this little boxy thing up here. Press G and Z and just move it down. And then press S to scale it so it's a little bit thinner. And then the top of this, we can press G and Z to move it up. And we can scale it so it's a little bit thicker. And then we're going to press Control R on the side and scroll up on your mouse wheel one time so you get 2 cuts before you press left click. Then you can press Enter to confirm this. Press Control B and bevel this. And then scroll down on your mouse wheel so there's only one cut. So like it doesn't have multiple cuts. You can press Alt E and then extrude faces along normals and add like a little tiny like ridgy thing. And I think you can press plus on your number pad to expand the selection. If you don't have that, I think expand is... Okay, so in the menu at the top here, if you don't have a number pad, you won't have this. So at the top here, you can click select and then select more and just click more. this will make your selection grow. So if you click this, it will expand the selection to include the top thing. And then we just want to change the material on this. So in the right here, we can just do, not brick material, sorry. We need to make a new material. So just click this little pagey thing, and then you could just call this torch metal and just make this black. And then you can press assign. You're not going to see the color right away. So click this little material button at the top, the viewport shading, so that you can actually see the material. Just press Alt-Z to get a see-through view, and then press Control-3 on your keyboard if you're on this side so that you can see it. And then you just want to select all the other faces and hit minus or plus here, sorry, and create a new material and call it torch wood. And then you can assign that so that these are a different color. And you could just pick a color. We're going to change it in Unity anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but a brown would probably be appropriate for the torch color. And then we need to make like a little bowly thing on the top here. So if you go here, you can press Alt-Z to get out of X-ray mode, press E, and then just move it up a little bit, and press S to scale. E again, S to scale, E again, S to scale. And then what we want to do is we can press I to inset this, and then G and Z to bring it down. So we get this kind of domey effect kind of thing. And then the whole top of this needs to be the torch metal as well. So you can press Alt-Z to get see-through mode, select all the top vertices, and just assign the torch metal to the top part as well. And then we just want to shade this auto smooth so that it looks more like rounded or whatever. And again, you're going to be getting a top view in the game. So if you press 7, it will look like this, and there'll be the flame above it. So it doesn't matter if the details on this are perfect. And yeah, and then this wall thing, this could also be torch metal. So, and torch metal, you can make that fully metallic if you want to. We're going to be completely changing this in the game, like the color in the game. But you could right click this and shade smooth by angle as well, so that it's kind of smooth. And this is all you really need to do to make the torch. So let's just take this and we'll press, if you click on the torch and this cube, we'll press Control J to join them as one object. Then we can press F2 on our keyboard and we'll rename it to torch. Then press G and X to get it away from our actual room. And we just want to select everything on this and press Control J. So, actually, you have to press Shift and click on one of the objects. Just do it on the floor and press Control J, and we'll join these all so they're one object. And then we can call this room so that our objects are properly named so that we can actually find the torch, because there was hundreds of objects and we would have trouble finding the torch otherwise. And then because we did this, we need to set the floor material to be different than the brick material. So if you go back into edit mode here, you can press Alt-Z so you don't have the see-through mode, and then just shift and select all of these bottom pieces, and we'll create a new material with this plus button, and we'll just call it floor. And let's just change this to like a darker gray for right now and hit assign, so that way we can see that they're different. Okay, so that's really all I did to make the room. I did cut out holes for the doors. I'm not going to do that in this video, but basically you just have to select the bricks that you don't want and delete them. I'm not making doors in this video. This video is just for the room. Okay, so before we export this, you can see that the origin is kind of like over here in a weird spot. This is probably where we put the initial brick or something like that, or when we combine the objects, it just like created an origin out in outer space. If you press Shift C on your keyboard, this will move ours is already in the center of the world origin, but this will move the 3D cursor to the origin of the world. And then you can right click and set the origin to the 3D cursor. So you see that little dot has now moved. Oh, we don't have the object selected. Hang on. Set the origin to the 3D cursor. So you can see the little dot has moved to the cursor. And then if you right click again, you can move the geometry to the cursor as well. So this will make it so that when you import it into Unity, it is actually in the right spot. And then we actually want to take everything and move it up so that it's like this. And then we'll set the origin to the 3D cursor again. So this way the origin is at the very bottom so that it's flush with the ground. And then we can go ahead and click File, Export FBX. And then on the right here, just change this to FBX unit scale. You can turn off making the animations and just click export. Then inside of Unity, all you have to do is you have to just drag this into your game. After you've dragged this into your game, you can drag it from the bottom into your scene so that you can actually see it. And then you just want to lock this on the scale and just drag this so that it's bigger until it fits around your character. So something like that, maybe. Let's just see. Yeah, so that's probably a good size. You want to look at this from the game view so you can see what you're going to see inside of the actual game itself. And these colors are not the right colors, so we need to make some materials. I've already made some materials, so I'm just going to use the ones that I already have. You could right click at the bottom, click create material, and then just mess with the settings for whatever you want. I am gonna just use these. I think this might be... Oh shit, this is like a noise texture. Let me just create another material. And we'll call this wall material tutorial, because I think the night walls are different. Okay, so something to note before we continue is if I drag the night walls onto this plane, you can see that there's a noise texture. But when I drag them onto the actual wall itself, you can see that nothing changes. It's just the main color. It doesn't actually apply. This is because there's something called a UV map, which you have to set up in order for textures to actually be applied to an object. So when you look at an object in Blender, if we go to the UV editing tab and we click on one of these bricks, you can see that there's it doesn't know where to apply the texture. So if you press U on your keyboard, you could use Smart UV Project. And now you can see that it's taken this brick and it's changed it into a UV map. So if we exported this brick, now the noise would apply to the texture. So the noise, the picture of the noise would go in this slot, and then the noise would get applied to all of the different areas of this, like as if the picture was just applied on it, right? So this is the top, like the side of the brick, and this is the other side of the brick, and these are the four walls. So we're actually going to do is if you press A on your keyboard, you can press U and do Smart UV Project for the entire thing. This will apply the UVs for the entire object at once. So that way you don't have to you could have technically done this before you started modeling the wall, but now it's kind of like, if you wanted, you could do the individual bricks and then each brick would have the entire texture on it, right? But we don't want that. We're just going to leave it like this. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to set a solid color, but I'm just letting you know, if you apply a textured material to this, like let's say you go to the asset store and get like a brick material, it's not going to work unless you apply the UVs in Blender before you export it. But anyway, I've created a wall material here. These are the settings I'm using. So I just have it black, and then metallic and smoothness, I've changed it so you can copy the numbers. And this looks pretty good. And then I created, I'm using this floor material. I think that's way too shiny. I'm just going to create another floor material. We'll just call this floor tutorial. And we could drag that onto the ground. That's obviously way too bright. We'll just turn it to like black, I guess. And then we don't want it to be shiny, so you can turn down the smoothness so it's less shiny. And yeah, so I think that looks a lot better. Maybe even a little bit more, I don't know. You could just mess with this and make it however you want. And like I said, you could get a texture from the asset store and apply it onto this if you want to. That would be a good idea. So this is pretty much all I did for the room. One other thing to note is that in the room that I've added to my game, I added a bunch of box gliders to all of the walls. So let me turn on the room that I've made again. So all of these the walls, they have box colliders on them. So if I click on the main object, I added all of these box colliders, and if you click on it, this is how it knows like where the edges are, so where your character can walk. So to add a box collider, you can just press add component, box collider, and then you can drag like the sides of it so that it fits. I'm not going to show you how to do that because it's like just put box colliders around all of the walls where you don't want your character to be able to walk. You could also use a mesh collider if you don't want to do that. So if you add a mesh collider and you set it to convex, it might work. I have had bad results with the mesh collider, so I use box colliders for all of my rooms. But yeah, so then the last thing that we need to do is add the torch. So there should be a torch floating in the middle of your room if you reset the origin. So you just need to find it in the hierarchy on the left and click on just the torch. And we just want to drag it to one of the walls. We're only going to be doing one of the torches, and then you can replicate it around the room as you want. You can press Control D to duplicate the object after you're done setting up the particle system that we're going to use. And then you could just move it around the room however you want. So let's delete the extra torch and we'll just click on this. If we right click on it, we can create an effect and we're just going to make a particle system. So when you add this, it spawns it on the ground level. We just want to drag it up so it's above the torch. And we'll just kind of zoom in and make sure that this is exactly centered in the middle of the actual torch itself. And we're going to be using cubes instead of these little actual particles. So on the right side here, you can see these are the settings for the particle system that we just made. We're just going to call this torch PS, or particle system. And then at the very bottom in the renderer, we don't want a billboard. We want this to be a mesh, and we want this to be a cube. So it looks like it defaulted to that, but if it doesn't for you, you just can choose cube from the list. Then we need to make a material, okay? Because the default material for this is the particle, which doesn't apply to a mesh. It only applies for like particles, obviously. So just right click at the bottom, and you can create a material here and call this torch material fire. And instead of it being lit at the top here, we just need to type in additive, and then it's this one, legacy particle shader, this one. So when you do that, at the top right, there's like a color that starts as gray. Make this white and turn the alpha up to 100%. And then if you click back on the particle system, you can drag this material into the material slot. So like this. And if you don't do this and you leave it as a default material, when you change the colors and like the fading and stuff, it won't apply. So you can see this is way too bright. We want this to random between two colors. So the colors could be like red and orange. And this is going way too far away from the thing. So we also want to set a size over life. So go down to the size over lifetime thing, click on that. And mine defaulted to the right one, so 0 to 1. And then we don't want this to be going as fast. So the start speed could be maybe like 1, or random between two constants, 1 and 2, 1 and 1.5. 0.5 and 1.5, 3. Yeah, just like that. And we just want to bring this up a little bit and just make sure it looks like it's actually coming out of this. And then I think we need more particles than this. So under the emission, instead of doing 10, you could do like 25. And this is a little bit too bright for my liking. Let's just go to the game view for right now. We're just going to take, I'm going to take the camera and just move it over to the thing. I'll click on it. So it's playing. So this is spreading out too far. We don't want it to go that far. So let's change the lifetime to 2 instead, so that it disappears faster. And then the start angle, or the start rotation, you could change it to a random between two constants. You can make this negative 360 to 360 so that they're all coming out in random angles, so they're not all the exact same. I don't think I changed really too much else for this. You could have it, the color over lifetime, go to black or fade. So turn on color over lifetime. And then as it gets to the top, turn the alpha. So this is the lifetime of the particle. The left is the starting, and the end is when it's being deleted, like the lifetime. And we're setting the alpha for the last frame to be lower so that they're fading away instead of just disappearing harshly. Like before, they were getting to the end and they were just actually disappearing, but this makes them fade over the lifetime. And I think that's it. The size could also be random. So the start size, instead of just doing 1, you could do a random between two constants, and you could do like 0.1 to 3, or 3 is a little bit too big. Just do 2. Like maybe 1.5 or something. I don't know. No, 2. And we'll just set this to 0.1 instead of 0.01, or maybe 0.5, because we don't want any that are like too small. So yeah, I mean, this is a very simple effect, but I think it looks really cool because it's just like, it doesn't need to be high graphics. Like this is good enough for a torch or whatever. What we want to do after, so now that we've made this, we can take this torch and we can duplicate it around the room wherever we want it to be. So there would probably be a door here, right? Let me just move this over here. You could press Control D to duplicate it, and you would put it here. And then we could probably duplicate both of these and move them over here. Rotate them on the y-axis 90 degrees, so negative 90. in this case. And then, okay, so it looks like it put them in the wrong spot. So we could just take this one and put it to the wall, and then take this one and put it to the wall, and etc. And then if you take all of them and you select them all at the same time, they should start playing. And we'll just select the hand so we can get the view of this. So I think that's a quick, easy way to make torches, and I think it looks pretty good. I really like, because it's a stickman game, the graphics of the flames, they don't actually have to be shaped like a flame. A cube works perfectly fine for that. And throughout my game, I'm going to be using cubes for a lot of the effects, just because it's a low graphic game. It's like Stick Wizard, so I feel like it's appropriate to use cubes. But yeah, so this is pretty much all I did. In the next video, we're going to be making the actual spikes that go between the things. Like I said at the beginning, the entire project is available in the description of the video for free. And it includes this other room that I've made because I spent a lot more time. Obviously, I'm not spending the same amount of time and detail on this room that we're making today as I did on the actual room. Like sometimes I'll spend like 10 hours. I can't put that in a video. So yeah, this room will be available in the project that is uploaded in the description of the video. I think it looks really awesome. And if you guys have any thing you want to learn or any comments, you could leave them below. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.